All right, sounds good.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming this evening here. Could be morning someplace else because we're virtual and we're around the world these days. But welcome so much to another special book passage conversations with authors event. I'm your host, Paula Farmer. And I've got to tell you, if this talk is even just a fraction as delightful and fun as our featured book, All's Well by Mona Awad, then we're in for a big treat. I've been reading it and listening to it, and I'm all in. I'm almost done, but from the beginning, I was all in. It is just absolutely, utterly delightful. And if you haven't gotten it yet, you definitely want to get it or download it and listen to it. It's about a college professor, theater professor, who is in chronic pain and after a divorce, and that pain leads to overdependence on painkillers, poor job performance, and an overall miserable attitude in life. But then there's a bit of a turn, and we don't know why. It's kind of mysterious. But for her, the turn helps her decrease the pain, and she gets kind of a different perspective on life. And she also gets the opportunity to put on the Shakespeare play that she really wants to, despite everybody else hating it and not wanting it to be performed. And that one is, of course, All's Well That Ends Well. Mona is the author of the much beloved Bunny, which was not only an indie bookstore favorite when it came out, but was named the best book of 2019 by Time, Vogue, and the New York Public Library. She has published work in the New York Times Magazine, Time, Vice, Electric Literature, McSweeney's, and many, many other publications. And you're beginning to teach. You'll tell us a little bit about that in the fall. And joining her in conversation is someone who's no stranger to Shakespeare or the play, Robert Currier, co-founder of Marin Shakespeare Company in 1989, and he is its original artistic director. He holds an MFA in directing from UC Irvine, where he has helped establish the Objective Drama Project. He has been nominated for Best Director and has won the Bay Area Theater Critics Award for Best Overall Production. With that, Robert, the stage is yours.
Great. Thanks, Paula. Great. Well, I can't tell you, Mona, how much I enjoyed reading this book. I mean, it's especially a theater person. It's just full of theater stuff. I just wanted to ask you, how much experience in theater have you had? How did you come upon this venue,
Yeah, absolutely. I started, I really think it started when I was a kid, and I just would write these skits to entertain myself. So I just love the idea of dialogue, even from very, very young. There's something about that felt deeply connected to me, to storytelling and what excited me about storytelling. So I think it started there, and I would kind of perform them too. Whenever there was an opportunity in school, when I was in elementary school, I would leap at the chance to perform. And then in high school, I actually did plays, in high school and performed in them. And then also I did some writing for plays too. So that was really fun. And I got really, really into it, but then I kind of turned away from it. I don't really know why. I guess I got shy or something. But I was still a fan, and I would see whatever productions I could, especially of Shakespeare, and really only got very into it again as a graduate student when I took a Shakespeare class. And then I just fell completely in love with the plays all over again, and especially All's Well That Ends Well.
Oh, great. Especially All's Well That Ends Well. Yeah. Well, I must say, it's not usually in anybody's top 10 list of their favorite Shakespeare plays. In fact, we call it, there are roughly Shakespeare's 36 plays, or 37 if you add Pericles. 36 from the first folio, roughly one third, it kind of breaks down to what we call the popular plays, the middle plays, and then the problem plays or the difficult plays. And All's Well is always in that third group. It's always one of those problem plays. And many companies who just do one show, for instance, in the summer, have never done and never will do All's Well. So it's interesting that it became one of your favorites. I know some actors and some theater people write a lot, but I've heard many times they say that they miss the society, they miss the company. When they're writing, they really miss being part of a company. How do you feel? You go back and forth on that?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think there is something really isolating about writing that is hard. It's hard. You're kind of dreaming up your own reality, and there's nobody to collaborate with. I love talking to friends about what I'm working on. That helps. Not the same kind of collaborative spirit that you find in theater. So I do miss that. And part of the joy of doing events like this, I'm so grateful to you and to Book Passage for being with me tonight, because part of the joy of this is the connection with people in the world of books, booksellers, readers, other people in the arts. It's wonderful to connect this way, because writing can be it is so solitary. It's not at all theater in that way.
Yeah, both good and bad. You like being alone, then sometimes you've been alone so long you crave being with somebody else. I'm just curious, at what point in reading All's Well, and I assume that you read it before you ever saw it, which is very common. At what point what grabbed you? Was it Helen's first speech, or where did you latch on to this so strongly?
I think I hated her so much, and I was the only one in my class. There was one other person who was kind of a little bit torn about her, but I just found her to be so manipulative and so single-minded in her affection for this man who doesn't like her, and then also so performative in her desire and her sorrow. She has that line, "I do affect a sorrow, but I have it too." And I love that line so much, because yes, she does genuinely have a sorrow, but there's something about her saying, "I do affect it," that makes her mysterious, makes me second guess her motivations, makes her enterprising in a way that's very off-putting. And I guess I was interested in that. I was interested in how much I couldn't stand her. And then how much I changed later on because I would go back to the play.
Yeah.
I change a part about her, and I started thinking, she's an orphan. She's kind of on her own and claiming agency, in this world where she is powerless. And there's something really exhilarating and very fairy tale like about her that's exciting.
Yeah. What are we supposed to think about how she cures the king? Where does she get that?
I don't know. It's so mysterious. That's kind of, part of the reason why I was drawn to her. It felt very witchy, and I do think that you could, I don't know, I'd be very curious to know what you did with Helen when you directed All's Well That Ends Well. But I think you can do a production where there's a supernatural kind of element to the way that she magically heals the king. I love that healing because, I was grappling with chronic pain when I was reading this book. And so the healing seemed very exciting to me, that this person could come in and cure you of your ailments just magically.
Yeah, chronic pain. I mean, the first half of the book, I felt the pain when I would put the book down. I've never read such descriptions of pain before. I mean, this is something I assume you've probably never done before in any of your other books. Is this a new thing for you? Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that I was grappling with for a number of years. I had hip surgery because I had been in hip pain for so long. And so surgery turned out to be the only option, but it was a very unsuccessful surgery. I was in recovery for a very long time and ended up injuring my back during the recovery, which then set me back. And it just started becoming very complicated because another surgery wasn't possible. And I had all these neurological symptoms down my legs, and it made walking very hard. It made everyday tasks suddenly very difficult. But on the surface, I seemed fine. I mean, to the outside eye, I didn't look like I was suffering, even though I was. And I was very interested in that because there are a lot of people who have those kinds of ailments. And what is life like for somebody who's moving through the world with pain that no one can see? It's actually a very universal experience. So I wanted to explore that in this book.
Oh yeah, Miranda. I was curious. You referred to a lot of the characters' names in the book and all, but I don't recall that you mentioned that Miranda is the daughter of Prospero. You must somewhere, right? You never did. Why not? How can you give her the name Miranda in a Shakespeare titled book and not talk about, The Tempest?
Yeah, I didn't want to, I was already engaging with 2 plays. So I felt like I should probably just drop that in and just leave it. And, but the dean that she has that very, fraught conflict with, the dean tells her that he was Caliban.
He played Caliban.
Yeah. So he's definitely her monster for sure.
That's where I thought that, that was where the name Miranda made sense when I read that the dean had played Caliban. I went, oh, okay, there's the connection there.
That's right.
And then, of course, they all wanted to do the Scottish play, all the students. And the students even questions, as some people I'm sure do, did Shakespeare even really write All's Well?
Right.
The authorship question, you touched on the authorship question. People are always asking, who wrote these plays,
Yeah, true. Middleton, right? Middleton.
Middleton, or was it Marlowe, or who was it that wrote it? Queen Elizabeth, the latest guy is a guy named Henry James. There's all the time. Francis Bacon was the big in the 19th century, and there's about 50 candidates have been brought up. People like to talk about the authorship question a lot. I don't so much. I just care about the plays.
Me too.
Amazing how many people ask me questions about who do I think really wrote the plays. I kind of go, I don't care. They're absolute timeless masterpieces, and I want to continue working on them. Do you have a piece of this of All's Well you'd care to read to us for a minute or two? We'd love to hear you.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'll just read a little bit from the top of chapter 2. So in this section, so Miranda is going down to rehearsal, deal with these students. She wants to put on All's Well That Ends Well. They want Macbeth. It's a whole thing, and she is in great pain. So I'll just read that little section.
Okay.
When I get to the theater, they're already sitting on the stage as they were in my daymare, legs swinging over the edge, faces shining but unreadable. Mutinous? Maybe. Hard to tell. Still, they're here. They each appear to be holding a copy of All's Well, my director's cut. That's something. They haven't torched them in a communal burning yet. That's something too. Third rehearsal. They have already formed vague alliances in accordance with the social hierarchy and are sitting in their respective clumps, not smiling, not frowning, waiting, just staring with their young eyes that think they see. Brianna sits in the center, my soulless leading actress, my Helen, who doesn't deserve it all to play Helen. Beside her is Trevor, her boyfriend, who is playing Bertram. And of course, there's Ellie in the corner, my gray-fleshed, gray-eyed favorite, my dark mouse of a soul. Last year, she played the nurse in Romeo and Juliet. This year, she plays the ailing king, though she would be the perfect Helen. The rest of the students to me are a sea, a dull and untalented sea, and have been cast accordingly. They stare at me, their glazed eyes registering my decrepitude, their open mouths yawning in my face. My leg stiffens. I smile. Hello, all, I say. They murmur hello back. Their smallness, their radiant faces, their youth usually move me a little. So adorable, really. Today, though, I only feel fear. They look at me now, waiting, I realize, for me to speak. Because there are things I say, apparently. Aren't there things I say that light them up, that sway them? I have forgotten these things that I say. Tonight, even more is required, I can tell. A stirring up of morale. They've read the play a few times now, the play I have chosen over the play they wanted. And there are hurt feelings. There is incomprehension. Miss Fitch, we don't understand. Why? Why are you making us do this play? I feel cold sweat down my back, and my right leg seizes up even more. I become terribly aware of my limp, my hunched hobble. I lean against the table. I try to smile more warmly. I'm their friend, yes? Remember? I imagine the student evaluation. It's clear that Miss Fitch is trying her best, but she's really disorganized and loses control of group discussion a lot. I feel we would get more out of the experience if she were more like a real director. And how is everyone, I ask, trying for a soft voice, her brightness. This fails. I am met with only dead-eyed faces. So I switch gears. I try for a certain mysteriousness. I make a fog machine of my expression, a hard line of my mouth. But I'm a bad actress these days. Even they can see that. I don't convince. Good, they murmur. Or else they say nothing. Or else they just blink. Brianna, my lead, doesn't even blink. Brianna keeps her leaf green eyes wide open. They stare with wondrous bitchiness at my entire body. She looks at my teal tea dress, its sad pattern of orange flowers, which is the dress I'm just realizing I also wore to class and to rehearsal last week. Ditto the oversized worn black cardigan with its gaping open pockets rattling with pills. She is judging me. Her eyes say this. Don't judge me, you little bitch. What was that, Miranda? Grace says. What? You mumbled something. No, I didn't. Silence from Grace. Silence from the students. Not only is Miss Fitch late for rehearsals these days, but she is also insane. Miss Fitch talks to herself. I totally heard her. Well, I say to them, my tone is so pleasant. My tone is daisies swaying in a field, the field of the drug commercial. Why don't we just dive in, yes? Act 1, Scene 1, Helen's soliloquy. They don't move. I'll stop there.
Oh, silence from Grace, silence from the students. Yeah, your character Grace in the book. There's a lot of references to how close, what a good friend she used to be of Miranda's, and she seems nothing but problematic as we come to the book. And they have all kinds of they want to go. She wants to go for drinks, and they won't. What is it? The pain? Is it Miranda's physical pain that turns her friendship off with Grace? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it is. You know, she's limited. Miranda is limited in what she can do. And also, at first, very prideful, and doesn't really want to share what she's going through, because she doesn't want to be a burden. She doesn't want to appear weak in front of her colleague who is becoming her friend. And so, it's very lonely, because I think when she does open up to Grace, they are close, but there are limits to what they can do, right? Miranda can only do certain things. She can only drink at a bar. That's all she can do. So it's hard. And the book is interested in that. The book is interested in how pain can kind of isolate you.
Yeah. Do you think, many scenes in the book, Miranda's having a drink. Do you think maybe she drinks a little too much? Are we supposed to infer that she's semi-alcoholic, or is that just kind of normal?
Yeah, I think that she is using it I think she's self-medicating for sure. It's because I don't want to spoil things, but things do shift with Miranda, and when they shift, she's not drinking so much and not really taking the pain pills anymore, and she changes. The changes are disturbing too. But
yeah. And then there's of course, Brianna's a great character too, and I must say, I have worked in private schools. I've directed in private schools where there was a young person in the cast whose parents were donors to the program. Boy, did you have to be careful with them, because you had to give them the part they wanted, because a lot of the money from for the company came from this person's parents. Now that you're three, I don't know how much we can give away here.
No, you can. That's okay.
Three men. You're three. We assume that the three witches are who fund her later on in the story, that they somehow contribute all this money. And I'm not really 100% clear if the money was actually delivered or just kind of promised. But I don't know.
I think it's delivered.
It's delivered.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's open, of course, like you said, but I do think,
And there's a feeling they might take it back because they didn't like the production or something like that. But
well,
yeah, you're right. I've had that happen too. I've had donors give money
Really?
to get it back. Almost everything in this book, I was telling you, the character of Hugo, the set builder, who Miranda seems to has a thing for, and that's great. I can identify with that guy. He's one of the few people that seems to like her all the time. And also Ellie, who ends up playing Helen. Ellie, of course, is the one student that seems to like Miranda universally throughout the entire time. What do you call her? A dark mouse of a friend.
Right.
And then at some point later on, and of course the book goes back and forth from reality and in her mind, of course, at some point Ellie turns out to be her infant daughter.
Right.
That I went back and did I miss that maybe she and Paul, her husband, maybe had a kid that was still born or nothing like that. They never had a child.
No, it's fantasy. It's
Ellie's your fantasy child.
Yeah. I think
fantasy child. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's part of the, part of what drew me to sWell, and I'm curious to hear about your production of it, but was the fairy tale component to it. It's like it's a wish fulfillment. I mean, she's a clever wench of fairy tale, but it's also the fulfillment of a fantasy. She starts off loving this man, desiring this man so openly, wants him so badly, and she gets him in the end, even though he does not want her. And it feels like a fairy tale trick.
Yeah.
There's just something to that ending, that very disturbing happy ending that feels very fairy tale. It doesn't very improbable. It doesn't quite add up. And that's interesting to me. So how did you handle that? What did you?
Well, I was disturbed by the ending too. It's kind of like these days, it's hard for people to do Taming of the Shrew, because at the end, of course, there's the scene where she puts her hand underneath, Petruchio's foot and wants her to step on him and all that. And that last long speech, by Kate is oftentimes these days cut, or it's changed where she flips him over, or you can tell she's just kidding. It's problematic how you're going to end that. And in this play, I just could not, and maybe this is one of the reasons the guy playing Bertram, I don't think he's ever worked with me since then. Right. Because I couldn't get around that Bertram was deserving of her. And I ended the play with all's well that ends, blackout.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I couldn't put in the final well.
Right.
All's well that ends. That was it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
And the magic as far as how she learns to heal the king and all, I don't have this. We're outdoors and I would have liked to, that's where I would have liked to maybe been in cinema. I would have liked to had some all wonderful kind of special effects, to indicate, the magic that she learned from her father, that she had in her book or whatever it was. Well, I think we just had it. I think in the script, it happens off stage.
Yes.
And sWell. And I just kind of went along. I copped out. I couldn't think of anything magical to do visibly on our limited outdoor daylight state. We perform in an amphitheater. And it's kind of hard to do any special effects. I've tried to do projections and all, but it's hard because some of our plays are matinees, so it's hard to project because we're in daylight a lot of the time. But wow, it was so interesting. So when she would go, some of these times in the play, it would just break reality. I mean, is that something that you have done in your other books where you would just, oh great, I can't read.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that's part of the reason I think why I love the idea of writing a theater fiction, because theater is like heightened reality. So you could open up, you can realistically, if you have a theater fiction, you can open up the borders of reality. And in this book, Miranda is directing one play. She's directing All's Well That Ends Well, which is very obviously the life that she wants for herself. She wants this happy ending. She wants a miraculous healing. But then off stage, she's living this other play. And that kind of allowed me to extend the world of the stage beyond just the college theater into the whole world of the novel, and then use the tricks and magic of theater across the whole world of the novel. So that was really fun, and that was what drew me to the subject. Yeah, for sure.
Terrific. And it seemed as though she had power that she wasn't even aware of, that when she would touch somebody or grab somebody, they would get afflicted, by what she had physically, and that was just so amazing, how what happens to the one character, a couple of characters, when and she doesn't even seem to be really aware until later on that just the power of her hand, right? Am I getting that right? That's that she could transfer all that, and then it would leave her, and she'd be okay for a while. And she was so happy. She was so happy when she felt better, Yeah,
no, it's true. It's it's an interesting thing about sharing pain. I was really interested in that. And when we share pain with each other, that person then takes on the pain, right? They take on the pain. I mean, this happens every day when we just talk to each other and share our pain. And so I was curious about what that would look like literally. And the ethics around that too. It's a power that the three men who are the witches, they grant her, but it's a Faustian bargain for sure.
Faustian bargain for sure. Just amazing. Just amazing. Did you have another chunk of later on in the book you'd like to read it? I'd love to hear you read more.
Yeah, sure.
It's so great to hear you read it, because when I read it, it's different from when hearing you read it. It's great.
Yeah. So I'll read from a little bit later on in the book when Miranda she is feeling better, and she is with the students, and she is outside, and she's kind of possessed by this kind of manic joy because she is better. She is no longer feeling this pain.
She's not aware it's getting dark. It's in the evening, right?
Right, that's right. So yeah, it's a springtime outdoor rehearsal.
And everybody's freezing except her. She just doesn't feel cold, right?
Okay, so I'll start here. Okay. What did I tell you? Doesn't it feel just like spring? I sing, my breath a capering cloud. I look at my circle of children, huddled obediently on the green, lightly shivering, not so lightly shivering, pink faces. No scripts because I've forbidden them. And guess what? Now they've memorized the play. Now they know it by heart. They stare up at me, the tails of my black coat blowing behind me, standing straight in my heeled boots, taller than I have ever been, casting my shadow over them. Is it just them, or have I grown taller in the past month? Wonderful. Well, I say, let's warm up, shall we? Grace looks at me with panic. Grace is her co-director, I should say.
Yeah.
Oh no, not another one of my warm-ups. She thinks my warm-ups of late have been a little too wonderful, I say, clapping my hands. Warm-ups are wonderful, aren't they? They get the blood going, get the air flowing, get the cobwebs swept away. Now let's all get in a circle, that's it. Closer, closer, don't be afraid. I don't bite, do I? And I laugh. I'm always laughing these days. Good. Now let's all bend forward and touch our toes. Very good. You too, Grace. But Grace just stands there next to me, watching me fold forward, watching me reach down, watching me sigh with pleasure as my fingers touch the tips of my boots easily, so easy. Really reach down and touch those tips. Wow. Doesn't that feel amazing? So amazing, am I right? That stretch. Wow, wow, wow. So good. Now let's reach up. Up, 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 and touch the sky, shall we? Touch the sun, that's it. Can you touch the sun? See if you can stretch up to the sky with your arms and touch the actual sun. Oh, fuck yes. Feels fucking wonderful, am I right? Miranda, Grace whispers, how your arms just love it. They want to stretch up. They want the sun, which is not so weak anymore, is it? Not so pale and glimmering dully behind the clouds, but bright and bold and fierce, isn't it? So bright, it'll burn your eyes out. Am I right, Grace? Grace just looks at me. Her arms are still folded in front of her chest. Okay, drop your arms back down. Arms back down, I tell them. Now we're going to shake it out. Shake everything, that's it. Hands, arms, legs, head, hips, really shake them. Don't be afraid. We all shake together. We shake and we shake and we shake. I shake with them. I'm with them every step of the way these days. I'm shaking and shaking and shaking. My limbs, my head, I really get into it with them. I'm jumping up and down to show them how to shake, hopping on one leg while shaking the other. And as I'm shaking, I'm laughing again because it's just so, so fun. Isn't this so fun? I ask them as I shake and shake and shake. Yes, Professor, they huff. I ask them, is that all they have? Really? Really? Oh, I don't believe it. I tell them to go faster, wilder, really let loose, lose yourself in it, like you're trying to shake off your actual flesh, arms, legs, head, hips, yes, like you're possessed, full of demons. The only way out is to shake them out, shake them free, you're free. Oh, it feels wonderful, doesn't it? And I'll stop there.
God, wonderful. That reminds me of Grotowski, that kind of warm, that extreme, let everything go, absolutely forget who you are. Just do it. I worked with Grotowski a long time ago, just before he died. And it's just so wonderful that clearly some people don't even understand. If you're not in theater, you don't understand how often and how important warm-ups can be.
Oh, yeah.
And there's earlier in the book, when you were in pain, you were kind of not into the warm-ups, of course, because you couldn't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Amanda, she's not into it. She can't do it. She hates them. But then when she's feeling better, she's all about it. Yeah.
It's all about it. Like at first, it's just Grace wanted to do the warm-ups, and and you were in pain. You didn't want anything to do with it. It's so interesting being, working in. There's so much of what you said about. Your character, Miranda, working in a small college, how they, I was so interested because I experienced exactly what you talk about, like the English department people in some of the schools I worked at have nothing but contempt for the theater people.
Right.
I've experienced this. I worked in a half dozen various colleges, and so often the English people, what's that about? Is it that we have too much fun, that we're not serious, that we lisp and wear tights and half of us are gay? And what's going on there? Like at the school where I work now, the theater people don't even come see my plays.
What?
That's so
horrible.
Yeah, how horrible is that? What do you think's going on there?
I was going to ask you. I don't know what it is because I think you're absolutely right, and I've definitely sensed that. When I was shadowing a professor in theater at Emerson College, she had so much disdain for the English department, and for scholarly that approach to scholarly treatment of the plays.
Yeah,
and I guess maybe I understand it because, I don't know. I think they have to be inhabited. Yes, it's good to think about them from the outside, but I think inhabiting them physically, as you do when you're performing, thinking about staging, thinking about those realities of putting on a production.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a perspective that I just think it's so different from a perspective that you would have just reading the play, That's why I spent so much time kind of shadowing directors, doing warm-ups, following people on stage and even, being on stage with them just to get that sense, because I thought it was so crucial to be able to understand the director's position and her disdain for the English department.
Right. I think, in a nutshell, the English department thinks that theater people are shallow, in a word. We're shallow. We don't write the long papers on it. We don't understand it as deeply. I know some people, fairly scholarly English teacher type people, that have said to me, and at first it kind of shocked me. I kind of understand it now. They never want to see Hamlet again, for instance.
Right.
Ever, because it's not what they think it should be. They would rather just read these plays than actually see them staged. Okay. Isn't that interesting? Of course, Shakespeare.
I kind of get that. I understand that because when I saw Helen in All's Well, so there's one production I was telling you and Paula about it before we went live, but there's a production that you can watch, this Globe production by John Dove, directed by John Dove, and there are great components to it. Some really terrific actors.
Did Mark Rylance play Bertram?
I'm not sure.
Rylance was the first director of the Globe for the first 10 years. Mark Rylance. He's an amazing actor.
Yeah, no, I've seen him in other things, but I don't think he played Bertram. But this treatment of All's Well That Ends Well, while it was good, it was a great countess. I didn't like the Helen that much. I thought she was good, but I wanted her played differently. And that was the first time I really understood. I see. This is the limitation of production, is that I'm watching somebody's interpretation of these characters, and I no longer have the freedom to have my own. And I guess that's the one thing that's nice about reading the text, is that you can have that freedom. But then you are missing the physical knowledge, I think, that you can only have when you're part of a production. So. Right. And you understand that, yes, in order to put on a production, you have to make choices.
Yeah.
Right? You have to make choices.
So now, are you a professor at Emerson or at some college back there?
Yeah, I'm a professor at Syracuse University.
Syracuse, wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you? I love one of your quotes I got written down here. Normally, I would have nothing but empathy for an adjunct.
That's right.
So I've always been an adjunct professor, and I know adjunct professors who are on food stamps. I mean, they make so little money as an adjunct professor. That was
terrible.
Great. Terrible. Nothing but empathy. I have nothing but empathy for adjuncts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard life. Especially to get started. You just to take the jobs that you can get, and if it's your only source of income, it becomes really, really hard. That's the thing about academia that I find so strange. It's it's a very, very difficult way to kind of sustain your creative life and also just your life, right?
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, I'm getting questions here.
Great.
Is All's Well considered minor or problematic in the theater world? Well, that's one of the things I'm getting over here on the right. Why would you say it's considered problematic or a problem play?
And then please tell me what you think, because I'm so curious to hear your perspective on this. Why do I think it's problematic? I guess I think it's there's a few things. One, she is so open in her expression of desire, which I think is, problematic. I think that's problematic. I think she's also a mysterious figure. She's so open with the audience initially in the first act, and then she retreats. We don't get to know her in the same way, and I think that's hard for an audience. I think you have this connection with this character at first, and then they become this more shadowy figure. I mean, I don't necessarily know, but I think that was something that was problematic for me about it. I wanted to keep my connection with Helen. I wanted her to keep talking to me, and I felt like she sort of falls away. So that's interesting. That, and of course that improbable ending, where Bertram is supposed to fall in love with her in one line. I mean, unless of course it's a cynical treatment of that line, in which case he just says it, but doesn't mean it, right?
Yeah.
Or means literally.
Right. It's hard to really totally love either of these characters, totally. For most people, they're not Romeo and Juliet. It doesn't end, with a happy marriage. It doesn't end with either one of them dying. But it certainly is always considered a problem play. I mean, there are some parts in it, like, for instance, older actresses, I've read say that the best part ever written in Shakespeare for an older actress is the Countess of Rosillon.
Yeah, it's a great role. Yeah.
Which she doesn't make an appearance in your book.
No.
I believe.
Miranda has some countess qualities when she's talking to the lead.
Yeah. He's been influenced by her, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got? Would you ever want to write a play, or would you like this book to be adapted as a play? Ooh, would you like this book to be adapted as a play? Someone's asking.
Yeah, I really would. I would maybe like to do the writing. Just because again, like I said, there's something about dialogue. There's something about writing for a stage that just feels very exciting to me. It's where I started as a kid telling stories, so it would be kind of a return. And I think this would work very, very well on the stage. I'd love to see. I think you'd have to, again, you're reckoning with the limitations, right? And I love that. That's important. I want to see what can be done. So yes, absolutely.
You get the challenge of the actor playing Miranda having to limp, having to drag that leaden right leg around the stage at all. It'd be a really challenging part. I know a lot of actresses that would love to tackle something like that. Yeah. The other thing that interested me, because I think I mentioned to you before that we are the largest SIP, Shakespeare in Prisons company in the world. We're in 14 California prisons. We started in San Quentin in 2003, 18 years ago. And I work with a lot of guys in prisons. And it's interesting that your character, Hugo, the set builder, who she has the affair with in this book, in sWell, he was in prison. And he fell in love with Shakespeare in prison, which is so funny because I've seen that happen dozens and dozens of times. How do you know that? Have you ever been with a company working in a prison?
No, I haven't.
A lot of people go in with us sometimes,
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Yeah, I saw some of those stories because I looked up the Marin Shakespeare Company before we talked, and it was really, really, so interesting and so wonderful too. And I guess I just connect with it because, I wasn't in prison, but I was in physical dire straits, and I think when you're in a place of pain. There is something about Shakespeare that speaks, and it's just something about Shakespeare just ignites the imagination. I just think there's just so much room for you. There's so much room for you in those stories. That's what I found anyway. I love that I had the freedom to hate Helen at first, completely hate her, and have valid reasons, but then I could love her. That you could have that kind of, that he creates these characters that have this kind of complexity, that they're so open that they actually really invite that. That might be the thing, but I don't know for certain.
Right.
Yeah, they're redemptive. Maybe there's something redemptive about turning your attention to them, I think. Yeah.
I have another comment here. They love how much monologuing Miranda does. How she's often stuck in her head. Is that something you were thinking about? The monologue in a play versus the monologue in one's head?
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I think for Miranda, who is a person in pain and who is alone in her pain, it's a pain that's being dismissed and denied by the outside world. Her mind has become a theater and she is on a stage speaking to this imaginary audience. That's the reader. And so that's the text, is this, like, the story is this really intimate recounting that she can do, where she can finally tell her experience of the truth. It's her dream, right? Because she's an actor who can't be on the stage anymore. So this is the only space, the space in her head where she can do this kind of monologuing and have this imagined audience. So for sure that was part of what generated those. And then the other, it was Macbeth. The Macbeth soliloquies have these kinds of competing energies in them, the desire and the ambition, and then the kind of rationalizing and trying to reason yourself out of having the ambition and having the desire. I think that energy, that conflict in those soliloquies was really important to creating Miranda's voice, because she has those conflicts as well. She feels culpable, for what she's doing, as Macbeth does, but she also can't stop herself because she's feeling better, and that feels too good to pass up, So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, Paul, her ex-husband, is he in some ways kind of her Bertram, or is he somehow? I mean, they seem to be so much in love when he saw her first performing and just was gaga in love with her. And is it just her pain that makes him finally decide to turn elsewhere? Is there any? She keeps fantasizing. She sees him in Hugo and other people. She's still hoping that they'll get back together? You think?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a curse, you know. I think initially she feels like she's constantly looking back to the past, and the book is interested in that kind of the curse of nostalgia, of looking back at what you had and just longing for it so much, because it's, you know, you imagine that was when you were happy and when you were truly yourself. And then I think so. He is a kind of Bertram, but there's always this doubling going on. So
Yeah.
I think Hugo, the set designer in her current life, is also a kind of Bertram, right? Because she totally desires him. She has all the physical desire that Helen has for Bertram.
Yeah.
But to Miranda, he is unattainable because of her state. You know, she is too much in pain, too crippled by pain to really pursue or even feel visible, you know. Yeah.
The curse of nostalgia.
Yeah.
How great that was. Wow. Are you thinking about, do you ever think about doing another Shakespeare play as a basis for one of your novels? You know, many people have done this. Of course, you know that.
Yeah.
Novels that have been inspired by Shakespeare's plays. Are you thinking about any other plays that appeal to you?
You know, I love Richard III so much. It's such a great one. Have you directed that one?
Oh yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. How do you handle Richard? Do you make him a charmer in the beginning, or what do you do?
Yeah, he has to be a charmer, especially in that scene where he seduces Lady Anne when she is mourning over her father-in-law's coffin. I mean, of all unlikely situations, this guy that he killed, and they're taking him off to bury him, and then he comes on to her. Oh my God, what an impossible scene, you know. And you got to just give that Shakespeare's imagination total credit for that. I'm sure there's absolutely no historical, you know, basis for that, whatsoever, but yeah, he's got to be a charming guy. And then, you know, he turns at the end of that scene, I'll have her, but I'll not keep her long. You know, like, oh God, what an evil guy, you know. But we have to see how charming he is. You know, he has to have a charm, you know, like our last president, for instance. He has to have charm, you know, even though he might just be, you know, absolutely hideous. Yeah. No, it's a wonderful play, you know. It's so interesting too how they dug up his remains in a parking lot in the Litchfield or some town in northern England. You know, he keeps coming back around. What an interesting character. The last English king to actually die on a battlefield, you know, Richard III, you know, in 1485. Yeah, I would encourage you. I absolutely encourage you to pursue that. Let me see. Here's another question. Robert, what other of Shakespeare's contemporaries do you like to direct and promote? Oh, well, of course, you know, that's a question to me, but of course Shakespeare, you know, that era there, they wrote about those 50 years between about 1570 and 60 when the theaters were shut down. They guessed that the men, you know, Kit Marlowe and Ben Jonson and Middleton and all these guys, Rowley and all, they wrote maybe 3,000 plays, just a guess, and we only have about 300 that have survived. So 90% of those plays have been lost. Fortunately, one of the reasons we do Shakespeare so much is that because of the first folio, we've saved over 10% of the surviving plays are written by Shakespeare. Thank God, you know. But you know, there's a famous critic that just passed away last year. He used to write at Berkeley. He wrote the most brilliant intro to the sonnets. A man named Stephen Booth. There's an unfortunate Shakespearean last name, Booth. Anyway, but one of his quotes that I'll always remember, he says, Shakespeare is our most underappreciated playwright. What does that tell you? You know, I mean, a lot of Shakespeare scholars and fanatics like myself think that we're just, because a lot of people say, oh, an old dead white guy. Why would you want to even pay any attention to an old dead white guy? You know, and other guys on their side say, we're just now beginning to understand Shakespeare. You know, the true realization of Shakespeare is yet to come, is in the future, you know, and then of course there's everything in between. But,
Right.
I like Marlowe, you know, I
Yeah,
like
love
Marlowe, you
Margaret.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever put on Dr. Faustus?
No, I haven't. But I
Okay.
tell you, that's the play that hooked me when I saw that as a young man, as a teenager in Stratford, Ontario, and I went to see that play. And Helen of Troy, a naked actress, walked across the stage, and I never forgot that. Wow, I said, that's it. I'm going to go home and change my major from political science to theater.
Oh,
Not just that
Mary.
play grabbed me. It was just amazing.
How
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that Lucifer, it would be so much fun. It would be so much fun. But the one that I've seen, and again, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's staged very often, but it was a play that was important for All's Well. So I tried to watch it. I tried to watch it just online. I didn't love the production. I thought it was a little humorless. I think there's a lot of room for humor in Dr. Faustus. That's another reason why I love Shakespeare, is there's so much humor.
Yeah.
You know, even in the most monstrous scenes, there's humor. There's
Lucifer.
lightness, you know? Yeah.
Lucifer's been in the news a lot today. That's what they're calling the heat wave in Italy. Lucifer is the name they've given it, you know, quite appropriate. The hottest day on record in the history of Europe was today or something like that. Oh, amazing. What else we got? Mona, what writers besides Shakespeare have influenced your writing or inspire you?
I think, you know, definitely fairy tales, you know, the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm, I go back to a lot. Again, it's those like reversals of fortune, those careful what you wish for stories. I love those stories. I'm a sucker for them. I'm a sucker for stories that offer the promise of transformation. And then, you know, deal with the potential cost of that, you know, and I think fairy tales understand that. They use magic to kind of explore something truthful about our experience, something truthful about how we feel, you know, like our dreads, our desires. Fairy tales use the fantastic to explore that. Well, what if that actually happened? You know, the thing that you fear or the thing that you desire. What would that look like? So definitely the Brothers Grimm. And then Margaret Atwood. I love Margaret Atwood. I love her because she's fearless. You know, she plays with genre in ways that I think are really exciting, but she's really just interested in telling a great story. And she did a great, I don't know if you've read it, but if you like The Tempest, she did a great novel adaptation of The Tempest called Hagseed. It's really wonderful. I love it so much. And I did read it before I wrote All's Well, and it was very exciting to read because I thought, okay, this is an interesting like treatment of a text in a novel that is, you know, that feels contemporary and feels exciting and feels fresh.
She's wonderful.
She's really wonderful. Yeah. So I love her too.
Tremendous popularity for her these days too.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So much stuff going on. So do you direct sometimes in your school? Direct theater?
I haven't directed. God, that would be an experience. But I feel like teaching, and maybe you have a feeling about this, I'm sure you do. But teaching sometimes feels like acting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it definitely doesn't feel like directing. But it does feel like there's elements of performance that come into it for sure.
Right. Well, I always go like acting and teaching is like vertical. You have this character that you play. And directing is like horizontal. You have to like think about the set, the costumes, the budget, the people, the parking lot, the health, you know, all of that stuff. You know, but teaching and acting, you know, you can just concentrate on your one character. It's interesting. If you did start, because it's so funny. Some of these kids, like I get the feeling that Miranda's been doing this in this school for a few years because they talk about the other plays they've done and all. And yet some of the students are going, she's not really a director. You know, why, you know, she's not organized like a director, you know. What do they know, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What do they know? But no, it's true. I think that has something to do with maybe, I think as a teacher, you know, and there is a kind of realization, especially when you first start, you think it's this position of power that you're occupying, or at least to some degree, because certainly as a student, that's how you perceive the person on the other side of the desk. But it's a really vulnerable position. It is. It's scary, and students have way more power than they know. So I was, and they are a group, and you are one as the teacher. So it's the group versus the one, right? So I was very interested in that, in this book, like all the ways that can go awry, and all the humor read in that. Yeah.
It's so interesting too. Miranda was so many characters in this book. They said this a certain way. Now, was I acting? Or did I mean it? Or did they think I was acting when everything you say can be, even us talking right now, am I acting somehow? Am I trying to get something, or what's the reality? You bring that up again and again, and it's so true to life. It's just so wonderful. Absolutely loved it. I loved it. I just got to ask you, are you punctual? Because I loved your one quote. Where is it here? She was always on time, as only the truly mediocre are.
Yeah, that's true. I'm actually always early. So,
yeah. So there you go. You're worse than mediocre, huh? You're early. It's wonderful talking to you. I think I see Paula. Maybe our time is up.
Here I'm back. This has been great. Thank you both. I love that we paired you with Robert, Shakespearean director. That's just kind of perfect. And yeah.
Too close to home, boy.
I know. And thank you for answering those questions, some of which were from me, because you guys
were great questions.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I want to remind our audience that you don't have to have read All's Well, the play, to enjoy this. In fact, I think, as I said, I think I was telling you before we came on, that's like one of the few that I've never seen performed or never read as an English major. But I found myself wanting to dig up and find one after reading this. So that's kind of a good thing. And, for literary fiction lovers, you're going to love this book. And for people who love theater and love Shakespeare, you're going to love it. I think you're hitting a lot of audiences with this. Teachers, you kind of covering all the bases there. But it's just absolutely delightful and complex, but I didn't think I was going to read it as fast as I did. But once you're in, you're in. And shout out, of course, to Book Passage, but also to Libro FM for the audio. And if you get it as audio through Libro, you can still give credit to Book Passage. So we appreciate that. Yeah. And just as also a reminder, we have plenty copies, actual first edition copies of Mona's book, and her backlist of Bunny, which everybody loves. Right. And we do have book plates, signed book plates. So thank you for doing that, Mona, and getting those to us. We really appreciate it. So definitely you can come by the store safely and browse and pick up this book and many other books. And you can order online. You can definitely pick up the phone, give us a call. Any one of our booksellers is happy to assist that way. And once again, thank you, Mona and Robert. You two are great. This is one for the ages. And we'll look for you for your next Shakespeare-inspired novel.
Dickie Gloucester, Richard III. I'm looking forward to that one.
There we go. Thank you very much, and thank you to our audience. Until our next event, we wish you a happy evening.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
You made my evening. Wonderful talking.